I'm 88 years old, and there isn't much left ahead of me now. The doctor doesn't say it outright, but he doesn't have to. At my age, time isn't something you assume anymore. It's something you measure in seasons. Maybe one more summer, maybe one more Christmas. I sit in this quiet house most mornings and think about being 40. I can see that man so clearly. Strong back, thick hair, always in a hurry. He thought he was tired back then. He had no idea what tired really was. I wish someone had sat me down at 40 and told me a few things. Not in a loud way, not with big speeches, just simple truths, the kind you only understand when there's no more time left to correct them. At 40, I thought I was in the middle of life. Turns out I was already past the part that mattered most. Back then, I believed time was generous. I believed there would always be another weekend, another vacation, another chance to sit down and talk properly. I postponed small kindnesses. I postponed rest. I postponed being fully present. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. That's the strange part. I was responsible. I worked hard. I paid the bills. I kept the house running. People respected me. But respect is a cold thing to hold when you're 88. In my 20s, I was ambitious. In my 30s, I was building. By 40, I was established. That word meant everything to me. Established. It sounded solid, mature, safe. I had a good job, a title on my office door. My children were growing fast by then. My wife, God, she was patient with me. Patient in ways I didn't deserve. I used to tell myself I was doing it all for them. And I was, that's the truth. I wasn't selfish in the obvious ways. I didn't chase other women. I didn't gamble. I didn't drink my paychecks away. I went to work every morning and came home every night. But I brought the office home with me. I brought the tension, the unfinished conversations, the need to prove myself. Even at 40, I was still trying to prove something. I missed small things, not the big events. I showed up for graduations, birthdays, the school play. I was there in the audience, clapping, taking pictures. But I wasn't there on random Tuesday evenings when my daughter wanted to show me a drawing. I wasn't fully there when my son wanted to tell me about a friend at school. I'd nod, half listening, my mind still at work. I told myself I'd make it up later, when things slowed down, when I hit 50, when the mortgage was smaller, when I finally felt secure. There's always a when. The cost of that kind of thinking doesn't arrive all at once. It's quiet. It's slow. It looks harmless. My wife used to sit at the kitchen table after dinner. She'd want to talk, not about problems, just about the day. I'd glance at the clock. I'd say, I've got an early morning. Or I'd turn on the television, not because I preferred it over her, but because I was tired. I was always tired. I thought exhaustion was a badge of honor. I thought it meant I was important. Now I understand something I didn't at 40. Being needed at work fades. Being needed at home is temporary. Your children don't wait forever. They stop asking. That's the part nobody warns you about. They stop asking you to sit with them. They stop bringing you their small stories. They turn toward friends, toward their own lives. You don't notice the shift when it happens. One day, they just don't need you the same way anymore. By the time I realized it, the house was quieter. The turning point didn't come with shouting. It came with a hospital room. I was 62 when my wife got sick. Cancer. The word drops into your life like a stone into water. Everything ripples after that. Suddenly, all the things I thought were urgent weren't. Meetings, deadlines, none of it mattered. I sat beside her hospital bed and listened to the machines breathe with her. I held her hand and felt how thin it had become. That's when I saw it clearly. All those evenings I'd been too busy. All the conversations I'd shortened. She never accused me. That almost made it worse. One night, not long before she passed, she said, "You worked very hard for us." There was no bitterness in her voice, just a simple statement. I wanted her to say I had been present. I wanted her to say she'd felt chosen every day. But she said, "I worked hard." I did. I worked very hard. But work is not the same as love, not in the way that counts at the end. After she died, the house felt enormous. Every room echoed. I'd walk past the kitchen table and see her chair empty. I had all the time in the world then. Time to sit, time to talk, time to listen. But there was no one across from me. My children were grown by then. They had families of their own. They visit, they call. They are good to me. I don't want to paint a picture of neglect. They love me. But I am not the center of their world. And I shouldn't be. That's the natural order of things. Still, when you're 88 and the days stretch long, you remember the moments you traded away. You remember the evenings you could have lingered a little longer at the table. At 40, I believed success would bring peace. I thought once I reached a certain number in the bank, a certain level in my career, I'd finally relax. But the target always moved. There was always one more promotion, one more project, one more year of pushing. Nobody told me that contentment doesn't arrive with achievement. It has to be practiced in the middle of the chaos. It has to be chosen when you're busy. I also wish someone had told me how fast bodies betray you. At 40, I felt invincible. A sore knee was nothing. A skipped doctor's appointment didn't matter. Sleep could wait. Now, every step is careful. Every morning begins with stiffness. You don't realize that strength is temporary. You assume you can rebuild it any time. You can't. There are hikes I meant to take, trips I meant to plan with my wife once things settled down. We waited for the perfect window. It never came. Life doesn't settle. It just changes. If I could sit across from my 40-year-old self, I wouldn't tell him to quit his job. I wouldn't tell him to throw responsibility away. I'd tell him to close the briefcase more often. I'd tell him to let the dishes sit in the sink sometimes and stay at the table. To ask one more question. To listen without glancing at the clock. I'd tell him that being admired is shallow compared to being known. I had colleagues who envied me. They thought I had it all together. They don't remember me now. Most of them are gone or scattered. The only people who matter at 88 are the ones who remember the sound of your laugh in their childhood. The ones who sat beside you when you were frightened. Regret isn't loud in old age. It's not dramatic. It's soft. It shows up when you wake up at 3 a.m. and the house is dark. You think about a random Thursday in 1987. You think about your wife waiting for you to finish a phone call. You think about your son looking toward the door, hoping you'd come outside and throw the ball just a little longer. You realize those were the moments that built a life, not the awards, not the salary. I used to believe love was understood, that it didn't need constant tending. I was wrong. Love needs time, and time is the one thing you cannot store up for later. When my wife was dying, I would have given every dollar I ever earned for one more ordinary evening with her. Just one. Sitting at that old kitchen table. No machines, no doctors. Money is useful. It buys comfort. It buys security. It does not buy back missed Tuesdays. I don't blame myself in a cool way anymore. I did what I thought was right. I was raised to provide, to endure, to keep moving. But I wish someone had told me that presence is also provision. That sitting quietly with your family is not laziness. It's the work that remains when everything else falls away. At 88, your world becomes small. A favorite chair, a view out the window, a handful of phone calls. You measure wealth in visits. I am grateful. I want to say that clearly. I had love. I still have love. My children hug me when they leave. My grandchildren climb onto my lap, careful with my fragile frame. But there is a loneliness that comes from knowing you cannot go back and adjust the balance. If you're 40, you think you have decades to repair things. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. The truth is, life doesn't send a warning before it changes direction. One diagnosis, one accident, one phone call. I used to postpone joy because I thought it was irresponsible. Now I see it was the most responsible thing I could have chosen. There's something else I learned too late. People don't remember what you achieved nearly as much as how you made them feel in small, ordinary moments. Did they feel rushed? Or did they feel important? I can't change how many evenings I cut short. I can't add more years to my wife's life. I can't rewind to 40 and soften my edges. All I can do now is sit here at 88 and tell the truth about it. Success is fine, ambition is fine, responsibility is necessary, but don't confuse motion with meaning. If I have any peace left, it comes from small things now. A warm cup of coffee, the sound of my granddaughter laughing in the next room, a photograph of my wife when she was young, smiling at something I probably said. I talk to her sometimes out loud. I tell her I'm sorry for the times I wasn't fully there. I tell her I finally understand. Maybe she always knew I would. When your life is almost behind you, you don't wish you had worked more. You don't wish you had answered more emails. You wish you had held hands longer. That's the quiet truth. If this means something to you, don't panic. Don't tear your life apart. Just notice the people sitting across from you tonight. Stay a little longer. Let the silence stretch. Because one day, you'll be 88, sitting in a quiet house, wishing someone had told you what I'm telling you now. And you'll realize they probably did. You just thought you had more time.